not just the answers, not just the quotes. It's life in the margins. It's time for CluffsNotes.
All right, welcome back to Season 4 of CluffsNotes, another reel for the shelf. We're calling this run Rides in Recovery, and we are now in week 12. Last week, week 11, I didn't drive Tammy. If you've been following along, then you know that recently her classes are over. She has no more mandated random drug tests. There's no more weekly check-ins. There's some loose ends next month with the parole officer and with the actual court paperwork, but the big stuff, I mean, it's done. That's a huge deal. So this ride, our only ride together, it wasn't to a clinic or a class. It actually was to a church. Every Wednesday during the school year, a local church, as I've mentioned before, opens up its sanctuary and moves the chairs and layouts of the toys and has a really neat opportunity for the little humans and the big humans for a few hours to come in and play. I call this time my Preschool Papa time, and it's been this thing that I've done since the whole time I've known Tammy. When Tammy first asked me to be a driver for this journey she's on, I remember telling her that Wednesdays were going to be pretty sacred for that time. Morning time with Harbor was non-negotiable. It wasn't just childcare, it was presence. It was rhythm, it was a ritual. It helps her to regulate. It helps me to just do the same. So this week, because we weren't driving, I reached out and I asked her, do you want to join Harbor and me at that church? And she said yes. When Tammy got in the car, one of the first things I wanted to know is, all right, what's going on? What's next? This roadmap that she's been on in recovery is now slowly disappearing, and she is free, but also that can be a little frightening. But she's figuring it out. Whether she stays local or goes back to Sarasota, whether she finds housing here or closer to her family, as we talked, I could just sense it. She's in that quiet place, that pause before this next big chapter. And it's cool because she has a chance now to write this chapter more fully than she did the last. What I loved about Tammy joining us was that up till now, Harbor had been entering our world. She's been overhearing these Zoom court sessions, listening to speakerphone when she's had to talk to her case manager or what. But this time, Tammy got to enter Harbor's world. And it was beautiful. It was awesome, actually. Because Tammy is a nurturer. I knew that from the very first ride we took together. So it's no surprise that to see her naturally slip into this mode of helping the little ones, encouraging, laughing. At one point, I remember we were out on the playground, and this little girl who I'd never even seen before, she saw Tammy across the playground, and she lit up. She screamed for joy and threw her arms out and ran up and squeezed Tammy. And Tammy didn't know her. We both just looked at each other. I loved that that's what I think recovery is about. I'm learning. It's not dramatic. It's not always clean. But it is deeply human. And it's about connection. It's about showing up in a world that for a long time maybe felt like it didn't have a place for you. It's about soft landings, predictability, familiar faces, the small, steady things that help sew things back together. Because whether you're a 3-year-old or you're somebody in your 50s, figuring out who you are is definitely a full contact sport. And boundaries and the shaky steps of, can I trust this place? Do I belong here? I got to watch a 3-year-old navigate that, and I watched Tammy doing the same. And I'm just reminded again that this is what we're made for. We're tribal beings. We're not meant to walk this road alone. And when we find people who will walk it with us, who bring joy, who bring presence, who help us feel seen, it changes everything. So here's to the quiet weeks, like week 12, and to full playgrounds and uncertain futures, but also the little steps toward it. And here is to not feeling that we have to figure it all out alone.
Another reel for the shelf.